Hello, this is Dan Lubeck. Welcome to Coaching Pit Stop, where we help leaders to continue to grow, be lifelong learners, when the leader improves, everyone benefits. Well, have you ever seen a ministry? It could be a nonprofit with incredible talent, a perfect location, a massive vision, but it completely falls apart. Maybe it didn't explode, but it just got stuck in endless meetings, petty arguments, bureaucratic gridlock. Well, most leaders think the solution is a better strategy, or maybe we need to hire some more superstar staff members who could take us to the next level. There's always somebody saying that. But according to Pastor Larry Osborne, the real problem is usually that your team is not sticky. Well, he's going to define that as we look at his book called Sticky Teams. Today, we're diving into that book, Sticky Teams by Larry Osborne. This isn't just a theory book, it's a manual on how to keep your board, your staff, your constituents, or your congregation on the same page. If you want to stop the revolving door of leadership, build a healthy, unified organization, you need to understand the game of growth as defined by Larry Osborne. Well, let's dig in. First of all, Larry Osborne starts with a bold premise. Unity is the one thing you cannot leave to chance. In a church, you can have great preaching, and most pastors work pretty hard at that, and even great worship, but if your leadership team is a war zone, the church eventually collapses. So how do you get unity? It starts by guarding the gate. Osborne argues that the biggest mistake churches and organizations make is letting the wrong people onto the board and certainly onto the staff in the first place. So somebody needs to be guarding the gate to prevent that from happening. So here's the golden rule. Do not put representatives on your board. A representative mindset says, quote, I'm here to speak for the youth ministry, unquote, or I represent the old timers, or I represent the children's ministry. The problem is that representatives are lobbyists, and lobbyists create gridlock. Just look at our government today. Instead, you want leaders. Leaders ask one question: what does God want us to do for the whole church? You want leaders who are representing God to the people, not representing the people to God, focusing not on what the people want, but what God wants. These are shepherds. So Osborne suggests you need a, quote, no theys, unquote, rule. If a board member says, well, they are unhappy about the music, you have to ask, who is they? If they can't name names, then they don't get to vote. Well said. Also, stop looking for, quote, buy-in. Osborne says it's a myth. Seek permission instead. Permission means, I'll let you try it. Buy-in means, I agree completely, and that's why organizations get stuck. Permission is fast. Buy-in takes time, and it takes forever. It's why pilot projects are so great. It authorizes trying new things. It gives people the freedom to fail on the road to greater things. Well, in part 2, Osborne talks about the game that has changed. As the organization grows, he sees the administrative structure changing just like you see in sports. So this is probably the most famous concept of the book, and it explains why growing organizations often experience sudden conflict. As organizations grow, it's not just getting bigger, it's playing a completely different sport. So stage 1, every organization starts here with a solo pastor or a solo entrepreneur. But stage 1 is like a track star. The person's by themselves, they do everything, it's lonely but fast. No time is wasted lobbying others. They know what they want and they just do it. Then as the organization grows, stage 2 is golf. This organization grows and, there's a need for staff. Everyone's friends. There's 4 or 5 people together. You walk the course together. Communication happens naturally because you're always together. But then as the organization grows, it hits the basketball stage. This is stage 3.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
You now have a team of 5 to 15 team members. You pass the ball. You have a position. Everyone knows what everyone else is doing. If the center fouls out, the forward can take his spots. Everybody's covering for one another on the basketball court. Maybe you have a coach, maybe two coaches. But then the organization grows and it hits stage 4, which is like a football team. This is a large staff. In football, the offensive team has no idea what the defensive team is discussing in their huddle. They take separate buses to the game. You are highly specialized with a head coach and several assistant coaches, each with a different focus. Here's where the conflict happens. You have a football-sized church or organization, but your board members or old staff still want to play golf. They want to know everything that is happening. They want to be best friends with everyone. But you can't play football with golf rules. If you try, you get relational overload and burnout. You don't have a chance at winning on the gridiron. Well, part 3 is about plumb lines and salaries. These are kind of the principles that go with the organization. How do you keep a large football team aligned? You can't micromanage them. Osborne suggests using plumb lines. Some people call this axioms. These are short, catchy statements that describe how you make decisions. These defined organizational axioms empower the staff with principles and values for making decisions on their own without having to ask for permission. For example, a plumb line might be, quote, "We count the yes votes," unquote. This means we don't worry about who didn't show up for the event. We celebrate who did and we move forward. Or, quote, "Middlemen just get in the way," unquote, means make a decision without unnecessary complexity. Get on with it. These phrases help your staff make decisions the way you would make decisions, even when you're not in the room. And speaking of staff, how do you pay them? Osborne says churches often view staff as an expense to be minimized. You need to view them as an investment. And so here's the rule of thumb. Pay your best people a little more than the replacement cost. If a key staff member left, what would it cost to replace them? Pay them that now. It's cheaper to have a great leader than to find a new one. And typically it costs at least a year and a half's wage to find somebody to replace that person. Part number 4, when things go wrong. Finally, what happens when things go wrong? A moral failure, financial crisis, COVID lockdown. Osborne advises radical honesty. Don't use God talk to cover up the mess. Have you ever heard people say, well, this must be the will of God, or this must be God's plan? That's all just happy God talk. No, it was sin. We blew it. We messed up. So if you're out of money, say, man, we're out of money. If you made a mistake, say, hey, we made a mistake. When it comes to moral failure or firing staff, decide your policy before the crisis hits. You will have 2 groups on your board, the, quote, family, unquote, group who want to show mercy and protect the person. And then on the other side of the ledger, you've got the justice group who want to protect the church and expose the sin. So if you wait until the crisis to decide who wins, your board will be split and it'll be a nightmare. Decide your severance and discipline policies now while heads are cool. So in conclusion, Sticky Teams is about creating a healthy spiritual environment for your leadership team. If your board is fighting, it might not be because they are sinful. It might be because they're meeting in a cold physical environment, a stale boardroom instead of a living room. Or it could be that you established a structure that is broken and you're asking the team to play golf when they should be coaching football. Unity doesn't just happen on its own. You have to fight for it. When all the vectors are moving in the same direction, when there's organizational alignment and unity, great things can happen, and there's nothing better than being on a team like that. If you're in ministry, pick up this book. It will save you a lot of headaches, trust me. If you're stuck, leave a comment. Let's see if I can help you get unstuck. Thanks for watching. If this summary helped you, hit the like button, subscribe for more leadership insights. See you next time when we dig into an amazing book by Robert Gates called A Passion for Leadership. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. Okay, that's it. God's best to you. Bye for now.